Hi everybody, Joey here again, and welcome back to part 3 of the office aquarium build. Now, in the previous two videos, I showed you how to build the aquarium as well as the filtration. Today, I'm going to show you how to build a stand. Now, the ongoing theme, it seems, for this entire series has been the number of challenges I've had to overcome and solve to make this build happen. Now, the first thing there was the actual tank itself. You guys will remember I built it out of the offcuts of the 375 build. The tank I ended up building was 6 feet long, 1 foot wide, 1 foot tall. Pretty unique dimensions, making it about 45 gallons. Now, I had mentioned that it wouldn't fit along my desk either way. So this made me move my desk away from a wall, leaving me with a large area along my wall to have to fill up. Now, there used to be a mirror there, and I ended up ripping the mirror off the wall and kind of ripping a lot of the wall with it. So I just slapped some paint over it because this whole stand is going to cover it anyway. With that said, though, that's a lot of real estate in a small office. I do need this to be a workable space for me, and I don't want to give up that much storage or area. So that was the number one focus when I built this stand. And I guess once you see the stand completed, now you'll know why I built the filter inside of the aquarium, making it an all-in-one filter. Now, I should just quickly touch base on the filter. That is just the filtration system and does not compensate for the entire circulation of the whole aquarium. That's going to be added in when we set the tank up. Okay, so back to the stand. I decided that since I'm taking up such a large space and this is such a unique dimensions of an aquarium, building a regular stand would just take up the whole wall for a relatively small tank. So I decided that if I'm going to build a stand for this, it has to have a tremendous amount of storage with it. One of the things that I've been wanting to add into the office was some shelving or some sort of a bookshelf. And for this build, I decided to kill two birds with one stone. Why not build a stand that also serves as a bookshelf? So that's exactly what I did. I did have a budget for this shelf of about $100. Now, I already had plenty of screws, glue, and stain from previous builds, so I didn't need to buy any more, but I did need to buy the plywood. I went with 3/4 inch birch plywood. The sheets were 8 feet long, 4 feet wide, and I only bought 2 sheets. So I was a little bit limited in wood and what I could do here, but the end result came out really good. I started with the back panel, and the back panel is 75 inches long by 4 feet tall. Then I moved on to the bottom panel, and the bottom panel ran the same length as the back panel, except it was 13 inches wide. This got glued and screwed into place. The screws that I used were 1.5 inch pre-taped screws. Now, pre-taped screws means that I don't have to drill any pilot holes first, and there's no worry about splitting the plywood. Then I moved on to the side panels, which again were glued and screwed in place, followed by the very top of it. Again, gluing and screwing that in place. Now, there's not a whole lot of how-to on how to build a shelf like this. It's all square cuts, and you can build them however you like and however complicated you like. However, I decided to keep it as simple as possible. With the main frame of the stand now completed, I moved on to the support system. This is actually what the stand is going to sit on. The two supports that I added in were 29 inches long and spaced by 2 feet, so there's 2 feet in between each section. Again, gluing it and screwing it from all sides. This would give the stand something to sit on, but not the complete support system. The next thing I added in was the top panel that the aquarium's actually going to sit on. Once again, gluing and screwing that into place. Now, you're probably wondering how I screwed from the back side, and prior to the video I simply marked off where all these panels will go, so I was able to locate those areas with the screws later on. So this would allow me to screw in from any surface. Now came the actual shelving. These would actually serve two purposes. You see, when it comes to plywood or even any aquarium stand, you're dealing with a live load, meaning that the water is actually moving and can cause the stand to shift. What you really want to focus on is that there is no twisting that can occur. So the shelves I added in are not only going to allow me more storage, but also further support the stand itself. Now again, each area is 24 inches long. However, I was running out of plywood fast, so on either side I was only able to have one shelf each, and there's about a 13-inch gap below and above. In the middle I was able to put in 2 shelves, and between each one there's about 9 inches of gap. So totally usable space. Now you'll notice that the top would allow me for storage as well, to place things on top of there, but there was really no support. Even as is though, given the length and width of that top panel, as well as the thickness of this plywood, I wouldn't really get any bowing with putting typical stuff up there. However, I did have the thought that I might want to add a small aquarium to the top of it at some point, so I took a piece of 2-inch strip of plywood and put it underneath the top panel for additional bracing, again gluing and screwing it in. So even though this is a really simple design, the most important thing you can do is make sure everything is square. Once the shelving was in place, I needed to further brace the two ends, because really they were only held by glue and screws. So I took some 1.5-inch plywood strips and put them under the entire perimeter of that panel and screwed and glued them in place, making this incredibly strong. Now at this point I was really thinking about adding doors at least to the two ends, but I ran out of plywood, plus to get the hardware for the hinges and handles, it just kept adding up. So I decided to leave everything as is and moved on to routing all of the edges of the stand. I used my router and a 1/2-inch bevel to route every edge of the stand, again matching the rest of my aquarium stands. After I was done routing, I was now ready to move on to staining. Now again, I wanted to make this stand not only be easy, cost-effective, as well as functional, but I also wanted it to blend in with the other stands that I built for this room. So I went with the same stain that I already used for the other stands. Now this is a stain and polyurethane in one, and the color is called Tudor. Although at this point I'm pretty sick of staining stands because it's a tremendous amount of work. However, because I'm using shop grade plywood, meaning that both sides of the plywood are finished, there was very little prep work. After applying the first coat of stain, I waited about 24 hours. However, once you coat plywood with its first stain, it does cause the wood fibers to lift a bit. And a light sanding with some steel wool will get rid of that. And then you'll remove any debris with some tack cloth, which is basically like some sticky cloth. And then you continuously repeat this step until you get to the color you want. I had to apply 4 coats to match the colors that are already in the room. So I had to do all of this 4 times over 4 days. Now what really made this take so long is that I coated the entire surface of the entire stand. Why? Because there's going to be an aquarium on it and I might drip water, or there might be some evaporation which might cause some condensation on it at some point. And I wanted to ensure that the wood was properly sealed all over the place. It's not really the stain that causes it to seal, but the polyurethane that truly protects it. It's what gives it its glossy finish. However, once completed, it looked really good and it totally matches the other stands in this room. Now we're coming to a close on this build. In next week's video, we're going to move the stand into place, put the aquarium in place, set the aquarium up, install the lighting, and get this thing running. In the final video, we'll aquascape it and stock it. Which I'll admit right now, this entire build has been focused around the fish that I wanted to put in it. So I'm really excited to get to that video. Until then, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I also wanted to thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next Sunday for a new do-it-yourself project.